This room where I sit is suddenly lit by cool rays of light of eternal delight, and inside my head I am free from dread. No thoughts arise, no feelings collide, and my breath is still and my heart is filled with a feeling of bliss from a motherly kiss. And deep in my soul at last I am whole. No doubts remain to darken love's flame. This breeze is all around. It fills me with a sound. It takes my thoughts away. My home's a motherly embrace, a gentle smiling face. She takes my thoughts away. The glitter of gold on my soul has no hold. Fame and power, illusions I no longer desire. No comfort or pleasure can equal this treasure. A child has come home to his mother's womb, and my breath is still and my heart is filled with a feeling of bliss from a motherly kiss. And deep in my soul at last I am whole. No doubts remain to darken love's flame. This breeze is all around. It fills me with a sound. It takes my thoughts away. My home's a motherly embrace, a gentle smiling face. She takes my thoughts away. Morning song, morning raga, how it feels to be in Mother's loving embrace, in her presence, in our hearts, when we begin our day.
It's morning for you, so good morning, dear
Good morning.
Victor. Good morning, everybody, or good evening, the people who are watching whenever. I'm very pleased to be again with Victor VERTUNNI for the second time. This time we agreed to start. Last time we started with a meditation. This time we start with a song because, yeah, I want this kind of introduction. Let's change a little bit. So, dear people who are watching us, Sahaji Yogi or non-Sahaji Yogi, boys and girls, Victor VERTUNNI for you here. I want to remember you that last episode we talked about his beginning in spirituality and in Sahaja Yoga. Actually, it's me, or I don't remember when we talk about your realization, Victor.
I don't think we did.
Exactly. So that's a good moment to talk about that. And also we talk about a lot of other little things in his biography. I won't insist there. I will tell you only this. Victor is an artist and musician, but also is an actor and a writer and everything. Is the soul. I don't. You know me. The people who are looking know me. I don't like to use big words, but he's the soul of the TEV, Theater of Eternal Values. So the company with Shri Mataji have the idea to found it, to start it. We agreed to dedicate an episode only to that one. That means, that doesn't mean we won't talk about the theater in the meantime, here and there, but will be a special episode from the start to today. So, wow, enough with me. Victor, please, first of all, to recover what we forget last time, tell us about your realization, how you get it, and when.
Well, the actual experience of self-realization, as it's described, the classic, sort of, how should we say, rising of the Kundalini, the opening of the Sahasrara, the experience of complete bliss and oneness, showering of vibrations, all of that didn't happen in the initial sessions that I had, that I was experiencing. It happened later, and it was kind of amazing and incredible. So my entrance, I think, was to Sahaja Yoga was actually fairly, how should we say, frustrating, because everybody around me was feeling things and I wasn't, Even though people worked on me and they said that they felt a very strong Kundalini, coming through the Sahasrara, I couldn't feel anything, and but I trusted them. I felt these people were genuine, and this was a genuine path. And they were doing it out of the kindness of their heart, and so I kind of went along with it. And I was expecting to have a bigger experience, because I'd had these experiences, I said last time, in my childhood. I'd even felt the cool breeze. I'd had this sense of annihilation of the ego and absorption into something greater, silent and real. And so none of this happened when I was being worked on initially. I can tell an anecdote or two about my initial beginning, and then the turning point that was when I met Shri Mataji. But again, it's interesting. It's unorthodox. I would say it's not common, or maybe it is, but not everybody reveals it, or talks about it. Honestly, I basically what happened was, I was seeking, and I was extremely dissociated from the kind of everything that was going on around me at the time in London, and felt that I had to return to that self that I had experienced in my childhood, and I didn't know where these triggers were, or these, let's say, the dashboard of happiness and oneness and fulfillment were. I just knew that this state didn't depend on external things; it was internal. And so I gravitated towards a watering hole for many seekers in London in the early 80s. That was Neil's Yard. I don't know if I told this story last time. No.
No.
But basically, I was working in an architect's office in Soho, I think, as a young courier, doing one of these student jobs. And at lunchtime, I went to this alternative kind of area, this little yard where you could get sort of food, a meal. They also had a dairy there that was making sort of bio cheese, and they had this place that sold scents and perfumes and massage oils, and it was kind of where people would, and upstairs in the Neil's Yard room there was a place where you could do anything from acupuncture to gestalt Rolfing, Alexander technique, all kinds of ways and approaches towards wellness and wholeness. And so I went upstairs one day, and there was this rather bizarre looking man sitting in a rather darkened room with long hair, and there was a big sort of catalogue in front of him. Eventually, when he said, "What are you looking for?" And I said, some way to sort of feel good again, and be myself again. And he opened this catalogue, and it was full of every kind of seeking method or path you could find, and there was also a price tag. And a lot of these things were very inaccessible to a kind of young student. And I thought, I don't have the money, I don't have the time to get through this in my lifetime. I felt that God was fair and just, and that something spiritual must be accessible to everybody. It can't be. So I kind of felt that, and I just desisted. I went down the stairs a bit disheartened, but I was so desperate that I sort of kept coming to this place. And one day I saw a little notice on the outside that seemed very innocuous and not culty or anything weird like that. It was just a piece of typed white paper, and it said, "Introduction to Meditation, free." And the date, and I just, I
the
thought,
magic word.
so, I thought I'm very non-committal. I won't be sort of drawn into anything, I won't have to sign up and shave my head or anything, and I went along on the day I thought was the program, and it
What
turned
date?
out not to.
What year was that on? Sorry to interrupt.
1982, around October or November 1982. I was about 19. I was 19. So I ventured up the stairs, and it was very quiet, too quiet to be a public meeting. And actually, there wasn't, I went upstairs, went down, tried various. I knocked on a door, and there was somebody there, and I went in, and there were 3 or 4 people sort of huddled together again, wearing alternative sort of clothes, like, shoes and jumpers they'd knitted themselves, and caps, and they were rolling up, somebody was rolling up a little cigarette, not I think a joint, but a little, as one did, and they sort of turned to me and looked surprised, and I thought, well, this can't be the meeting if they're surprised to see me. So they said, "Can we help?" And I said, "Well, I'm here for the meditation." And well, this isn't the meditation meeting. This is the biological cheesemakers cooperative meeting, or something like that. This is alternative London at the time, and I was just gutted. I thought I really was looking forward to this moment so much. And this kind young lady turned to me and she said, "What are you looking for?" And I said, she said, "Okay, well, hold on a minute. If you wait, when the meeting's over, we can go and have a cup of tea. I might be able to help." And so after the meeting, we went to a cafe. Now you have to understand that Neal's Yard was in the midst of Covent Garden. That was still not the Covent Garden, the tourist attraction that we know. It was being converted from being, an old, I think, sort of warehouses, wholesale vegetable market that it was at the time,
That's
into what it.
That's a good point, because I'm sure, like myself, a lot of people who are watching us have no idea about Neil's Yard. So sound like a very interesting place in London, but I don't have the pleasure to know what it is. So that's why I want you
Yeah,
to tell a little
yeah.
bit
I
more
must
about
be.
the environment, the
Yes,
place.
yes,
It's important.
yes. I mean, it was on the fringes, a little bit further over from Soho, which didn't have a very good reputation. And so, I'd go for lunch at Neal's Yard, and it was starting to have these shops and interesting places, and they started to have the imports that were coming from China, for example, that were not the sort of plasticky kind of things that we have today. They were genuine artifacts at the time that were just very cheap, things that you would see in museums but actually didn't cost very much, vases and all kinds of things that you could buy. The
Was
incense was coming.
more like the artists were around, or like hippie,
Yes,
or like what? Notting Hill, or kind of artist village, or
I think what it
hippie?
was ex hippies who had become
Yes, yes, yes,
entrepreneurs, and they saw the opportunity of a kind of commerce that was at the time equitable commerce. They had this vision of it, which
yeah,
then it became commercial, of course, in the end. But you were getting sort of Oriental instruments. There was an Oriental instrument shop not far. There was it was really nice restaurants opening up, and it was quite attractive from that point of view, and it was just sort of burgeoning and happening at the time. So we went to this little traditional cafe with sort of steaming cups of tea, and but again, Chantal, and I have to say Chantal Harris, very dear sister who saved me. I have to say she literally saved me, I think, because there she was patiently sitting next to this young student, and she said, "What are you looking for again?"
tell us again her name, please.
Chantal Harris. Chantal Guillot, before she got married. She wasn't married yet, but she married Ray Harris
Yeah,
in Sahaj later. And she was working in the dairy. She was a dairy maid.
yeah.
And she said, "What are you looking for?" And I said, "You might think I'm crazy. I'm looking for my real self, my true self." And she said, "Well, that is the noblest quest. It's what we're here for on this planet. And if you are now in India, you would be garlanded. People would bring you fruit. You would be a sadhu. You would be the person that brings auspiciousness to somewhere because you are so on a spiritual path. This is a spiritual path." And I thought, at last, somebody understands me. I'm not sure about the garland or anything, but um, and I wasn't vegetarian either, so I didn't fit the bill in any respect. I wasn't a hippie either, not at all. Uh, I was more into sort of new wave music and David Bowie and all that sort of stuff. But
A bit like Cat Stevens,
not
maybe.
at all.
No,
Not at all.
no.
Nothing
Oh, okay.
folky at all. I had very little exposure to that kind of music. I wasn't identified with Neil Young or anything like that. I was just 19, and I came out of an English college, and I was living in London. So, and my friends were all going wild in London at the time. Anyway, I was seeking for something else. And she said to me, "Well, your real self is actually triggered by the awakening of this energy inside you that connects you to the whole." And I said, "What do you mean?" So she got a paper table napkin and opened it up on the table, then rummaged in her handbag for a pen or a pencil, couldn't find it. So she took out an eyeliner and she drew the subtle system for me. And to me, it looked like a circuit board. And I thought, what does this kind of wiring have to do with spirituality? I couldn't connect it. And nevertheless, she said, this is the mechanism by which your consciousness is kind of opened up, because through the energy that. And I said, oh, I want it. I want this experience. She called it self-realization. You realize yourself. You realize who you are. You become aware of it. So I love that, and I wanted it immediately. And she said, "Well, this isn't quite the place, We need to go to you need to come to a meeting." And I said, "Oh, okay, a meeting. When's that?" She said, "Next week." I can't wait. I said to her, "I can't wait. I want it. I want it. I need it." And she said, "Okay, we'll make." I was actually a little bit down, a little bit sad, a little bit sort of, kind of lost. And I think she took pity on me, and she said, "Well, you can come. We'll make an exception. You can come to our house today." We lived together with some other people who practice this Sahaja yoga. You can come along. And so gratefully, I took, I think, she carried off and she went back to work, and I took a red double-decker bus to Camden where they lived. And Camden Town is another interesting place. They live just by the market, between Regent's Park and Camden Town. Anyway, it was an apartment owned by Patricia Proenza, who was married at the time to Pedro, and she was living there with Ray Harris and John Glover. And I used to frequent it afterwards. I used to go to their place after quite a bit. But anyway, they invited me for dinner.
Was one
And
of the ashrams from London
no,
by that time,
not
or it was
official.
no?
It wasn't official. It was a group of young
Yeah,
professionals, I think.
a
Yeah,
boarding place.
yeah, yeah. And they gave me a nice dinner, and then after dinner, they said, "Right, so would you like your realization?" I said, "Yes, of course." They sat me down on the ground, on the carpet. I wasn't used to that at all. Told me to open my hands, and all of them got behind me, and I could hear the hand movements because there was some of them had bangles, and I could hear the jangling bangles behind me, and they seemed to be sort of occasionally I could feel the tips of their fingers brush against my back, and then they were saying, "Oh, it's really cool, it's blasting," and they said, "What do you feel, Victor?" Nothing. I couldn't feel anything. I was really reluctant to admit this because they seemed to be working so hard on me behind my back, and I just wished I could say yes, and I couldn't feel anything. I can feel it now as I talk about it, but not then. Nor could I feel any epistemological leap in my awareness. I didn't feel anything different in particular, except a kind of a gratitude for their attention and their genuine desire to help me out because I needed it. I was a bit desperate. And that's what, afterwards I thanked them very much. And the next step was to come to a meeting, when I think it came a bit later. And an interesting thing happened, I think, in my first or second meeting. And I think I can't remember exactly which meeting or where in London. There was more than one. Suddenly somebody came behind me and put their hands around my eyes. And I turned round, and it was Paul Duncan, I remember. Paul Duncan, who I had met at school at 11, some years earlier, like 8 years earlier, and then never seen again. And then another friend from that school called Ian Crawford. Both of these kids I'd met very briefly before I left the school, and they were in Sahaja Yoga. I mean, that was really cool. The frustrating thing about it was they could all feel cool breeze, and I couldn't. They were all raising their kundalinis all the time and bandaning and things, and seemed to be sort of advanced, and I couldn't feel anything. I hadn't even had the first experience or even feel the cool breeze. But I persisted, and then I got the phone call. The phone call was around end of April, beginning of May 1983. Shri Mataji is arriving at Heathrow Airport. Would you like to come? I leapt at the chance. I knew
That's
I
a
was...
year gap between
No,
you get the
6 months.
realization. No, not a year. Yeah, was the fall of 82 when the previous story happens, and
Yeah,
in spring of 83 you get the call. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so I knew I was supposed to bring flowers, but I didn't really have the time to stop over and get them. So I just rushed to the airport, got to Heathrow, and it was, I think, one of these side entrances where the VIPs come out from. And there weren't that many yogis. I was expecting, it to be full, crowded, but there were, I don't know, 20, maybe less. And Shri Mataji arrived in this Mercedes because they'd taken her, I think, probably from a special part of the airport. Her husband was a high-ranking diplomat, so probably there was sort of a privileged way of, but I mean, and which was great because Mother then had a time perhaps to recover from her journey. She'd come from India, straight from India, and anyway, there we were, huddled together. The door opened. Shri Mataji steps out radiantly, this radiant smile, a big red bindi, her hair gathered, and I think she had a scarf, if I'm not mistaken, a Hermes scarf, which is a classic sort of beautiful silk French scarf, and a camel, let's say a beige coat, and she came out and she greeted everybody and smiled, and I was just absolutely entranced by her face, smiling face. And she was asking, so how are the programs going? Down to business immediately. Programs going, thank you for taking the flowers, but down to business, how are the programs going? And are there any new people? And they said, we have one. There is one. We have one here. So I was right at the back somewhere. So I got this sort of, passage straight to Shri Mataji, and I had been instructed to just offer the flower and not to touch her, not to take her hand, not to do anything other than that. Bow. And touch her feet, maybe not her feet, but the floor in front of her feet, So, but what happened next was kind of interesting. I got down on one knee and I presented this flower to Shri Mataji that some yogi had kindly given to me on my way towards her. So it was like a rose, and Shri Mataji took it, and then she gave me her hand, like this. And of course I took her hand, and I kissed it. Not with my lips, but like this. And I was on one knee, and I have to say that there's a backstory to this, and I must say it because it just reveals something interesting. Because I'd heard Mother knows everything, and this was proof of it, because my father had passed away some years before. He was like 56 when I was born, so he was 70, 71 when he passed. He came from the old school Italian aristocracy. And he had, he wore a suit every day. He never went out of the house without a suit and a tie, I'd had a kind of education where my father, we didn't play football in the park, or anything like that. But he gave me some instructions about how to behave in society. Like, for example, if you were at a banquet faced with a battery of glasses and cutlery, which ones to use first, work from the outside inwards. If they bring a finger bowl with the fruit, you're not supposed to drink it, you're supposed to dip your fingers in it. Even to cut a banana with a knife and fork, you're not supposed to do it like a monkey, and peel it kind of thing. There was all these incredibly sort of esoteric etiquette things and that I never had well, maybe once in my life I had the opportunity. I might have the opportunity. And he said something very important. He said, when you meet in society, if you meet an unmarried person, you shake their hand, a woman, you shake her hand. If she's a married lady, you may kiss her hand. Yes. Kiss her hand.
Yes.
If she is a noble lady of rank, like has a type, then you bow to kiss her hand. If you meet the queen, you get down on one knee, and if she gives you her hand, you may take it and kiss it. When on earth I might ever have such an opportunity. I mean, when my dad, I used to humor him. I said, yes, Dad, thank you, and all this. But it turned out that that was the opportunity, and it just came instinctively to me to do that. And, it was like I was before the Queen. And I have to say that when I saw her, for me, she was immediately, I could see from her face, she is the one. She knows everything. She is the one I will follow till the end of my life. I kind of knew it instantly. She's my queen. Whatever she says, I will do. Not guru, not God. I couldn't conceive of her, of who she was, but she was, I pledged my troth to her, at that time in Heathrow. And I have to say, paradoxically, I didn't feel, it wasn't a vibrational experience. I didn't feel vibrations. It was something from the heart. And I had faith in her. And she is the reason I stuck on in Saj Yoga, because everything at the time was kind of a whirlwind of benevolent chaos. And I think people was, fake it to make it, I think. I don't, if I look at everybody appeared to be, there was, or had to be transformed. So there is in nature this process, a natural process of transformation. Even a butterfly goes from being a worm to a butterfly, just not instantly overnight. It hangs from somewhere in a chrysalis, and then it's messy. The whole sort of crust of this sort of bug opens and cracks, and there's mucus, and then slowly a wing comes out, and then it sheds its chrysalis, and then it's moist and shakes out, and the wings then open and dry in the breeze, and then it flies. But we were all supposed to, I mean, the feeling that I got was people just have to jump from being human to being divine, and then in between the sort of the frankness and honesty and support for the change and development, frankly, wasn't there. There was nobody I could actually talk to or would listen to the kind of anguish I was going through in order to feel this, to shed this chrysalis. You got fobbed off with, oh, it's just negativity, oh, just be detached, oh, put a bandana on it. There was no help. I was 19. My parents, my mother thought I was in some kind of a cult. So it was like very disorienting, I have to say, and difficult to stay with your head above water. But it was my only chance and my only hope. And I'd met Mother. Mother, as I said, was the reason I stuck through it. And these kind people who were always very kind, Chantal and Ray and whatever, I was like an adopted younger brother. It was nice. But anyway, coming back to this, I hadn't felt anything. So one day I was invited to Shri Mataji's house, as we were, before cell phones, there was a tree, a telephone tree. So what you did was you received the phone call, and then you called 2 other people, and those 2 other people would call 2 other people, and gradually within the space of an hour or 2, people had been reached. And the call I got was, would you like to come to Shri Mataji's house? Of course. a little bit of trepidation there, because you kind of felt, am I worthy? That was the feeling I had, But it was an opportunity of a lifetime, so I sped along with my bicycle to Knightsbridge, and Shri Mataji was living in a house there in Brompton Square, which was a huge, great big London townhouse, Edwardian, I think. And then a huge number of yogis were working in there, people like John Watkinson and Pat Anslow and all the usual suspects who were at the beginning, the golden builders, renovating this house. There are lots of stories about this in various biographies. And as I arrived, a completely unskilled, probably rather lazy student was given a duster and told to clean a radiator, which seemed spotless when I confronted it. And the guy said to me, take my advice, do it slowly. The whole point is to absorb the vibrations. So there I was, dutifully polishing this radiator. And at a certain point, you could smell the aroma of delicious food emanating from the kitchen. And Mother had ordered, it was lunchtime. And Mother wanted all of us to eat. So we were given plates of steaming biryani, not just in the corridor or somewhere. We were invited into the dining room. We had to eat it. Mother wanted us to eat in the dining room. Of course, we didn't dare sit on these chairs that were there for, the entertainment of diplomats and VIPs that used to come. Mother used to entertain, but we sat on the carpet, this very thick, lovely carpet, and we ate our biryani. And
what house was that one?
Brompton Square.
Brompton Square.
And then we heard that Shri Mataji wanted us to rest after our lunch. Actually have a siesta. Mother was resting and we should rest as well. So we all lay down on the floor, on the carpet. And then afterwards we resumed our work, and and then we heard Mother was coming down the stairs to go out. And so we all kind of gathered almost behind the door and looked into the hall as Shri Mataji descended the stairs and went to the front door. And there we all were, peeking around. And Mother turns around. and said, there you all are. How are you? And Mother said, how are you, to me? And I said, I'm very well, thank you, Shri Mataji, but I don't feel the cool breeze. I just blurted it out, Not that the cool breeze was the paramount thing. I wanted my self-realization. I was desiring that. But still, everybody felt this cool breeze. I couldn't. So she said, well, come over, beckoned me over. And then I moved, and all the people behind me moved forward and crowded round Shri Mataji. She told me to hold my hands out. And she started putting swastikas, bandans and swastikas on my hands. And then she said, do you feel it now? I couldn't feel it. I said, no, Mother. And then she started, she was working on me, and she said, do you feel it now? She even put, I think, a cross on my head. And now, no, Mother, I'm sorry. And she said, have you tried lemons and chilies? I said, yes, Mother.
You knew about it?
Well, about that time, yes, I had. And she said, don't worry. When I come back, I'll make sure personally that you feel it. At which point I felt, should I run off, disappear, not to take her time? I thought, oh God, what have you done? She's ruling the universe, and who are you to And then I thought, I can't run away. She told you to stay. She's your guru. You have to obey. So I did. I stayed, and Mother came back, went upstairs, and then she received a visitor. And the visitor happened to be her elder brother. Not Baba Mama, but I think maybe they didn't have the same mother. I think he was older, and he had some sort of heart condition. I know, because I'll tell it happened later. Anyway, he arrives, at which point I think, okay, that's it. I won't, be taking Mother's time today. Relief not to have to detain her in some way. However, so I carried on polishing or cleaning or whatever happened. Anyway, Mother's servant came down. She wasn't a yogini. Her name was Bai, I think, at the time. And she said, is there a young man here? Victor. Well, she will see him. Where is he? So there I was. Shri Mataji, basically I had to follow her up the stairs. And I reached this door, which is open. The door is open on the first floor. Shri Mataji, it's a large bedroom. Shri Mataji is by the window, holding a white phone. She's on the phone, and she's standing up, talking to someone in New York and giving instructions about Sahaja Yoga, and talking and do this. It was like mother. It was like mother in it was like the presidential control room, you know, of a sort of global operation. It was like that was the sense of it, you know. Mother was, and so I kind of stood on the edge of the doorway, and mother beckoned me in while she was talking, and so I didn't stand. I got down on my knees again, and then when she finished the call, she came over, greeted me, and started working on me. And I got the works. The works. I mean, this is worth telling because it shows you what it was like really at the time. And mother, basically, she put her hand on my sahasrara. Then she told me to hold my left hand out on the ground, and she put her foot on it. And I had the other hand on the ground. And she was working on me, always like this, and doing bandhans and and she was literally, you know, working on me. And then she said, I'll be back. She walks into a side room where I can see from the corner of my eye her guest is sitting. And I can see that she tells him to put his hand on his heart, and then she's working on him, but she's telling him off. She's telling him off like an older sister is telling off a brother, you know, but in the kind of loving way, you know. And then he was nodding, you know, like this. And I thought, this is a private moment. I felt like sneaking away again, you know, you know. But she told me to wait, so I did. Anyway, she comes back out and moves to the window, and there was a bed and a sofa, not a sofa exactly, but a chaise longue, which is a kind of thing at the end of the bed. And she sat down and she said I should sit. And of course I sat facing her, cross-legged. And she said, no, turn around. So I turned around, and with my back to her, she said, now, jokingly, I'm going to break your neck. And she laughed. She took my head and she cracked it. And I felt all this heat. And then she did it on the other side, like this. And I felt all this heat. And then she grabbed my shoulders and put her knee in my center heart, I think, and pulled back the shoulders like that. And then got me to turn around again. And then she said, now do you feel it? Sorry, mother, I don't feel it. And then she carried on working on me, and she said something in the Brahmarandra, and she worked on the Brahmarandra. And then she said, now put your hand on your forehead and say, Shri Mataji, you are the comforter, the counselor, and the redeemer that Christ has promised. So I said that a few times and then she said, and now? I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel it, and I was about to erupt into tears because I really wanted to please her. I really wanted to feel it, to say yes. And as I was about to, I think maybe even cry, at that moment she was looking right at me with her full face, and she started smiling. And you know her smile, it was huge. And at that moment, I saw she was divine. I saw her as Sri Krishna, the enjoyer of the play. She was amused. I was about to cry. She was amused and chuckled. And I saw her divinity. I know, oh my God, she is God. And she said, and now? I just prostrated myself in front of her. I just bowed down to her lotus feet and just thanked her. Thank you, Shri Mataji. I didn't feel the cool breeze. It wasn't the breeze, and I was not even, the breeze wasn't, it was just, but she'd allowed me to see behind the veil of Maya. I had seen her an aspect of her. She'd allowed me to see it. And then she said, so I didn't reply, and she said, well, now, where are you going? Where are you living? I said, I live in an ashram on the other side of London, Mother. She said, how are you travelling there? I said, on my bike, Shri Mataji. Bicycle, yes, Shri Mataji. She said, well, there's a lot of traffic. Just be careful how you go. And that's it. Yeah, that's how that's how I feel.
No, let's not spoil the moment.
Mm.
A good moment for a short meditation. Shri Mataji,
Shri Mataji.
um, the moment was unique um, because every moments are unique. But this is we live for, actually. And when I put a comma after I said the moment is unique, it's because it's happened before with some other people talking about this kind of stuff. And every time both of us, or if we are a few of us, no matter the subject, which anyway was a spiritual subject, we said, this is the meditation.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like Mother's presence. One can somehow, Mother's presence
you
is
bring
there
it.
when you, yeah, yeah.
You bring it. You bring Shri Mataji's presence. Uh, I make some notes, which means I have some questions or some little comments, if I may.
Sure.
Um, I'm not sure which one to start. I remember last time you told me about your diplomat father, but I didn't quote his name, your name, the full name.
My father's name. No,
Ver,
my name. My
yes,
my
Vertuni.
full Victor
Yes,
Vertunni di Albanella.
Di Albanella. This is the one I didn't get it. Albanella, probably it's a region or
It's
it's a
actually
place.
I've never been there because, to be honest, I sort of blanked off for everything connected with the past, that world, and I haven't been there. But I'm told it is a beautiful little town, village, famous for buffalo mozzarella in the area, which is
Uh,
probably the only reason I would want to go there for that reason.
but
Honestly,
uh, why I bring that into discussion is you're very interesting. Everything is linked together, so I love it, and I love to make these kind of connections. The fact that you know how to behave in front of the Queen of the universe, which your father teach you,
yes,
without knowing, he didn't know that you will need it. He did it just in case. Probably
yes,
was was something there. You know how much Shimataji is against this kind of too much etiquette,
protocols, the
too much,
etiquette, yes,
yes.
yes.
Four types of glasses for 4 types of drinks and 6 forks and whatever
Yeah, yeah,
starting
yeah.
from outside. Anyway, but I want to to stress that not all the etiquette it's wrong, and not all the time it's wrong to use the etiquette. The excess of the etiquette is wrong.
Yeah.
In the end, the etiquette is protocol. It's nothing else than protocol. Shri Mataji, in my view, speak about the exaggeration of the etiquette and the protocol. So for me, it's nothing wrong to eat at the table with at least one fork and one knife. So a little bit of niceness doesn't do any wrong, and using napkins is nothing wrong with that. So
No, and you, as long as you know, you don't you know,
exaggerate.
it's not like believe into it. It's not like the the be all and end all. It's like you know, it's just a form. And but you know, the thing about it is that essentially that I have another story which is about
Yes.
the excess of etiquette, and that's a very interesting story
Yes.
that I would like to tell. I would also like to go from here. Where I would go from here is the third part, and the third part was okay. First part, recognizing Mother as my queen or my guru.
Yes.
The second was Mother allowed me to recognize her as divine, profoundly, profoundly, unequivocally divine. And you know, even when that passes, because not every day you may not touch it or know, at least you've known it, you know it. It's a milestone, you know. But it wasn't my self-realization in the classic sense of Sahaja Yoga, what I was seeking for. That comes later in another circumstance. But if you don't mind, Daniel, do you think we could have a third episode and we could postpone here?
We
Do you think
can
it's
have
already?
as many episodes as you like it, because I'm crazy about your stories, and I want to listen as many as possible until you will be dry of telling
Okay.
everything. I want to squeeze everything from you. So what do you talk about the third episode? I'm talking about the fifth one. So whenever, so as many
So
as you.
I would like to keep this for next time because it's interesting. It creates a bit of suspense, but I also have to a family commitment. My wife
Absolutely.
just tapped on the door,
I,
and
absolutely.
I'm enjoying this tremendously. It also helps me put together the pieces in the puzzle and sets also up a kind of narrative that maybe I will when I put pen to paper eventually to write down. So
That's exactly what everybody should do it. And that's exactly the reason
we have a duty. We have a
I
duty to bear witness to this.
exactly. We have to record these memories, especially you who were in the beginning and you are close to Shimataji. If we are doing, which come much later, because yeah, we feel like we are because we are the first in Romania. We have to record something. How was the first Sahaja Yoga in Romania? But you are the first Sahaja Yogi ever.
We have to share that. So yeah, I'll be very happy. I'll be very happy to do that, and maybe these Sunday mornings are actually perfect for them. So I could, you know, this could be if you want. We could also do it next time.
Absolutely. Because now you don't have too much time. I will stop the recording and we will talk about the next meeting after that. So in that note, if you do not have too much time, I will close it now. In that note, I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody who watching us, and I'm sure they will be as moved as myself about your story. Have you recorded this story before? Have you
I've told it, but no, not officially. I think it's in
not
some. It's in.
recording? not recorded.
No, this is the
Okay,
first time.
that's good. So at least we have
You have the exclusive.
no, we have it recorded. Okay, that's a bonus. If I have the exclusive, it's very good for me. But we have recorded. That's my point.
All right.
So on that note, I want to thank you again and thank everybody who are watching us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
let's see each other healthy next time. Jai Shri Mataji.
Shri Mataji. They'll find out when I actually did feel the cool breeze. That would be the thing. So next time.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. All right then. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye bye.
Lots of
Bye
love.
bye.
Jai Shri
We will
Mataji.
see each
Bye-bye.
other after I stop recording.
Okay.